The iconic duo of Missy and the Monk are back at it again with some more mayhem and averageness. Hello and welcome back to Mad Men with a Box. I'm one of the Mad Men, Chris, here to talk about Missy and the Monk, aka Missy Series 3, which came out on the 22nd of September 2021. Now, if you've seen my previous talks / reviews on Missy Series 1 and Missy Series 2, I quite enjoyed Missy and the Monk whenever they interacted together in their stories. So, learning that Series 3 was entirely just that, just Missy and the Monk together, like getting into mayhem, having to essentially force to work with one another because of the events at the end of the previous series, I thought, okay, this is going to be a good one then. This is going to be a really good series. We'll get to that, but first of all, let's get started with our first story where the monk literally loses his head. Not his head, more like his brain. Body and Soulless by James Goss. Missy and the Monk are stuck in an interplanetary war. Even worse, the monk is not even in his body. He's been placed in a bag. His brain has been just placed in a bag, and he can still talk. Time Lords, science, just accept it. They're both stuck on the same side until they are split apart, and now they are both on opposing sides of this war. A good opportunity for one or the other to take out the other. So, this story is fine. It's okay. Pacing is fine. Everything about it is fine. And that is all I can really say about this story. I don't like the whole... I call it the Batman syndrome, where it's like, oh, I planned this all along, or my plans have plans within a plan, because, like, Missy does something like that at the end of this story, and it's annoying when Batman does it. It's still annoying when other characters do that as well. I don't like... It is a very annoying trope. It's like, oh, I planned this all along. This is all according to Keikaku. Like that thing. It's kind of annoying. And again, I like the first story we have of Missy and the Monk working together. They are now forced to work against each other in two sides of different war. I did like that, but other than that, the story was just fine. Probably a 6 out of 10, above average. Now, moving on to War Sea. Does it get any better? Not particularly.
You're not even listening!
War Sea by Johnny Cannon. Missy has left something on Earth, something that one of her previous selves created for the Time War, and she's here to reclaim it because humans are using it to give themselves regeneration. Of course, find something that's appropriate for ourselves, make it all for us, and profit off of it. Make sure to profit off of it, which is one of the characters does here. So, what the thing is it's essentially a weapon, a person created for the Time War. It's implied to be the War Master that created them. And Missy has come to reclaim it for herself alongside the monk. Again, like the previous story, this one was fine. I did like the premise a bit more compared to Body and Soulless. I did like that how in a weird kind of contrast, like the monk is almost the morality in this part, despite the fact he's a renegade like Missy, but what Missy does throughout this story, the monk is questioning a lot of what she's doing, like, oh, you don't need to kill these people, why did you need to do this is terrible, this is horrible. A very interesting thing with the monk, because I also got done listening to like the 8th Doctor Adventures, where a different incarnation of the monk was there, and he's more of he's still doing the whole I'm meddling, I'm all for myself. Towards the last two stories is where you see him in a different light. He's starting to regret his actions. He actually had feelings for one of his companions, and he regrets everything that he did. From what I've heard, until later on, he starts to blame the Doctor for that, not himself. So one step forward, two steps back. But no, I did like that about the monk in this story. But aside from that, yeah, it was fine. Same as the previous one. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It was just okay. That leads us to our finale. If you thought one monk was good, how about two of them? But with a difference.
You are a young woman dressed as a man.
Missy and the monk are after some weapons-grade plutonium, and where better to get it than Chernobyl? I'm kidding, not Chernobyl. Renaissance Italy. In the house of an elderly Borgia. Missy has disguised herself alongside the monk, but there's someone else there that's also after the plutonium. Someone who might be working with Missy, but also wants to help the monk. We are reintroduced in this part to the meddling nun, who is a future incarnation, well, depending on timelines, because the monk's timeline's a bit of a mess. An incarnation of the monk, portrayed by Gemma Whelan. Most would know her as, I think it was Yara in Game of Thrones, Theon's sister, Theon Greyjoy's sister. This story, I think it was I would say it's a bit better than the previous two, but it's still fine. As usual with all of these stories, the pacing is fine. There's no problem with the pacing. I was at least still somewhat engaged, but at the end it was all fine. Gemma Whelan as the nun, the meddling nun, she has appeared previously, I think in Dalek Universe against the 10th Doctor. But this was because I haven't listened to the Dalek Universe yet. This is my first introduction to Gemma Whelan as the nun, and having heard her in like Game of Thrones, and that's the only thing I've seen her in, like the voice she uses for the nun, it's almost comical. It's very like over the top, like posh, like I'm the meddling nun, like something like that, like very forced like interpretation of like elderly posh British woman, like that kind of voice. So it was a bit comical. I don't know if that was the intention. Again, I haven't heard her in Dalek Universe, so I don't know if that's just the same, just how her character talks, or she's just going with the times. Although it's Italy, not Britain, so who knows? But it seems a bit too comical and forced. So I don't know. I couldn't really take the meddling nun seriously in a lot of parts. But overall, again, the story was fine. Another 6 out of 10. No, three sixes. But my main takeaway from this is that I was kind of disappointed with Missy and the monk. Like I said at the start of the video, the best stories, the ones I either liked or were my favorites from the previous two series, were the stories where the Missy and the monk were together, like them interacting, them facing off against each other. Like, I really enjoyed those ones, and there being a full series of this, I thought that I would have had the same level of enjoyment. I would have thought that every story here, Body and Soulless, Warseed, Two Monks, One Mistress, they would have all been my favorites. That would have been hard to say, like, I like this one more than this one. Like, they're both in the same quality, but I like this one over this one. But like, they were all fine. Some had more interesting parts, but they were all fine. It was kind of really disappointing. I think I maybe just hyped myself up a bit too much because, like I said, I like Missy and Monk's interactions with one another. So having a full series, just in my head, that would have been okay. That would have been perfect. That's just top quality shit right there. But nah, I felt a bit more disappointed coming out of it, which is a shame. Not sure if they're doing any more Missy series, because this was technically the latest one. Came out last quarter, end quarter of last year. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully, if they do a series 4, they kind of learn. They've at least learned from the previous 3 series. What they did with this one, it's only 3 stories. I think that is the right amount for the anthologies. Unless it's like 4 great stories you have, and like, yeah, we got to keep them all. Stick with 3. So they made the right decision. They did 3 stories instead of 4, because the previous 2 series kind of really suffered where they didn't need 4 stories. It could have just been 3 stories. But I don't know, that and just a bit more, something a bit more. If they're doing more Missy and the monk stuff, something a bit more engaging, something on the lines of their interactions with each other in series 1 and 2, like something along the lines of that. That's all I'm asking. It's all I want. I don't make big demands. Just make it good. Just make good, engaging, enjoyable. That's the least I expect. But that is it for my talk/review of Missy and the Monk, aka Missy Series 3. Go check out the previous videos I did, or any of the videos I did with my fellow co-hosts, and I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao.